He said so.
I took the meeting on while I was
I go
doing
on 5 minutes late. I was 5 minutes early, really. When you consider I said I got.
Ladies and gentlemen,
He's an executive at St.
everybody to get seated.
He knew you was pending.
Public Works Committee,
It's Berkeley County. I'm Henry in Berkeley County.
that's you. Ms. Salisbury is coming. So we're going to start that. Mr. Darby is the chairman. Mr. Darby?
Thank you very much, sir. I'll wait on Ms. Salisbury for the approval, ma'am.
Okay, so the first item there is the approval of minutes.
Move for approval.
Properly moved and second. All in favor? Those opposed? Nay? Stands approved.
The next item is the historic preservation ordinance amendment, and we have a presentation from staff.
Good evening. I'm going to start with a brief overview of the ordinance, and then we'll move on to a recap of the previously approved amendments and finish with a discussion of the proposed changes in front of you today. The Historic Preservation Ordinance was adopted in August of 2018, and it accomplished the following. So first, it created the Historic Preservation Commission. Next, it established a process to designate properties and districts as historic. And lastly, it created a process where proposed changes to historic properties can be reviewed for appropriateness. The ordinance was amended twice in 2021. In April of that year, it was amended to remove the restrictive covenant affidavit requirements. In October of 2021, the ordinance was amended again to exempt limited site plan review applications and certain types of subdivision applications from the Certificate of Historic Appropriateness process. Now we'll start with today's proposed amendments to the ordinance, which will be shown in red italicized text. All of the proposed amendments are within the Certificate of Historic Appropriateness section of the ordinance. The first is a clerical update. Staff wanted to separate the requirements for historic properties and districts from those within the 300-foot buffer of historic properties and districts. So this is not a change in the process, simply a clarification of existing requirements. Next, staff is proposing to exempt the following types of zoning permit applications from the CHA process, and I'll go through those. Existing communications towers where no changes to the lease area or equipment area are proposed. Face changes for existing legally permitted signs. Home occupations. Permits for tree removal that meet the requirements of the Charleston County ZLDR. Power poles where no alteration, modification, addition to, new construction, rehabilitation, relocation, or restoration is proposed. Temporary special events and temporary uses and structures. Continuing on, staff is proposing a process for modifications to approve certificates of historic appropriateness. If the modification is categorized as minor, per the description shown here, the zoning and planning director shall be authorized to approve the proposed modification without requiring a new certificate of historic appropriateness. Any modifications that do not meet the description of minor are considered major modifications and would require a new CHA approval. Lastly, staff wanted to codify the process for projects that require approvals from both the HPC and the BZA. The proposed language would require applicants to receive their certificate of historic appropriateness prior to placement on a BZA agenda, if applicable, of course. The Historic Preservation Commission and staff recommend approval of these amendments. And this meeting was noticed as required. Thank you.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Darby. Question, maybe for the attorney. Can you go ahead to the screen that said minor modifications? Would this be a vast increase in the planning and zoning director's authority that we've been accused of recently?
No, sir. I would suggest that these would align with the other authorities that the planning director has in the ordinances that we have in this county.
And this was HBC set, all affirm, Planning Commission all affirm, unanimous?
I believe so.
So this did not go in front of Planning Commission. It went in front of the Historic Preservation Commission and did receive unanimous.
Where are the people storming the doors, telling us we're giving the guy too much authority or person too much authority? I wonder how remarkably hypocritical. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, concerns, or discussions? All in favor of said motion?
Aye.
Those opposed? No opposers? Stands approved. Ms. Salisbury?
Yes, sir. Next, we have a request to abandon a right-of-way adjacent to St. James Drive.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? None. It stands approved. Mr. Chairman, I return to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Darby. Now we're going to enter into our Finance Committee agenda, where we have 5 items. All members of council participate. First order of business is approval of
Move for
minutes.
approval.
Moved and seconded by Reverend Milton. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, ayes have it. Item number 2 is a short presentation by the Navigation Center. If you'll come right up. Ma'am, we'll give you up to 10 minutes.
You gonna put a limit?
I only had 7. This is great.
Put a limit on there?
On all?
Chairman, I'm
On
sorry.
all of them,
I'm
yeah.
stepping over my boundaries,
Thank you, sir.
Forgive me,
Glad you realize that. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maria Lena Rowland. I am the CEO and the founder of the Navigation Center. I'm here to seek approval for an award to increase the capacity of $200,000 for the center. I also want to share with you how the center is different than uniquely different than other community partners doing similar services. And I also I want to share with you how difficult it is for those to get assistance. Our mission is supporting homeless people's navigation of the very complex ecosystem of organizations that provide services they need to rebuild a sustainable, independent life for themselves while advocating for significant ecosystem improvement. Our vision is from the model on how to successfully integrate government, non-for-profit, and faith-based organizations to address homelessness at the individual, local, and system-wide levels for the cities and states. How we started is in 2015, we were a veteran service organization, and I started Military Community Connection. I was working under a grant program with the National Guard and working under Operation Palmetto Employment. And what I saw with our veterans and families, there was such a disconnect for other coordination of care. And there I started the Military Community Connection. And in 2018, the city of Charleston asked us to take over the resource center in September of 2018, and then we changed our name to the Navigation Center, and the Military Community Connection is now a division of the Navigation Center. When we moved over to there, as you could see, our rapid increase of growth. When we were just Military Community Connection in September 2018, you can see we went from 200 folks per year to almost 400 folks per year that we were seeing in over 1,800 services. Who we serve is the Tri-County area. We coordinate care for homeless and those at risk to becoming homeless people. For our veterans, we continue to care, and we work with the veterans, the VA system and their hotline. We continually work with our children, the social workers, and mental health within the school. We recently won a grant with the Charleston County School District, and now we're working one-on-one. We also work with the people with mental health and addiction issues. We are working with, side by side with the Department of Mental Health, Charleston Center, and area hospitals. The next 3 slides, I'm going to share with you a lot of the ecosystem of how this works, where we're getting our referrals, how we do our work, and how we do the work, how it's done. As you can see, our referrals are coming in from many different areas. They're coming in from the VA, hospital discharges, police, schools. We even get referrals from out of state. We get referrals from neighbors that have homeless folks in their neighborhood trying to figure out what the next step for them. Our core services right now, we're currently, even after our move, we do a lot of clothing, additional services. We call it our checkbox services, so to speak. But our core services include the MUSC clinic and the Department of Mental Health. And here we have all of the service providers that we have. I want you to see how many service community partners that we have in our area. And if you have a mental health problem, if you have a disability, if you are a mother that's sleeping on the floor in someone's house while you're trying to get your kids to school and work and try to find a place, where do you begin to find a place to start getting out of homelessness? And that's where the Navigation Center comes in. It's a place to begin. What we do is we use a social worker. The social worker meets with every single person that walks in that door. And we have designed an intake and a process procedure that we want to know not only that you get your utilities paid, we want to know that you've got to get your rent paid. We want to know the root causes of how you got there. So not only we're asking about all of those questions and doing these applications and making those referrals to those community partners, but we also want to make sure that we're asking them about the mental health and about their medical issues. I can't tell you how many people come in and tell us that they can't pay for their insulin, how many people have not getting their prescriptions, and it really makes a whole difference for the person as a whole. I'll give you an example. We had a blind woman that was dropped off at our back door, just dropped off. She had nothing. She had none of her Social Security. She had no benefits, nothing. And what we did is we took her and walked with her in her journey and advocated for her every step of the way. We got her connected to the right community partners. We got her there because of the barriers, all the barriers that she had. We got her housed. We met her with our MUSC and we set up all of her doctor's appointments. After we got her housed, we made sure she got to those doctor's appointments. And today she's still at her home. And she's still a piece of work to work with, but we're still working with her. But the key is that we just don't help them and get those services and the checkbox services. We stay with them and we advocate for them all along the way. As you can see, our service delivery here, our increase of services has gone up, and my budget just pretty much stayed the same. And I have to take full accountability for that because I was so busy trying to figure out and really creating a whole process procedure for the general population. I was not counting on managing my budget or managing and getting the donations that were needed. But I do have to share with you in 2022, even after our move, we have grown our increase of over 40% of needs from people that are continuing to call us on us. We've received a lot of awards. We're still working. We're featured at ETV, which is on our website. We're working alongside of MUSC, and we're part of a lot of grant programs and a lot of other grants that are coming out recently, including a Duke Award that we'll be sharing pretty soon. Our pathway forward. Obviously, we don't have time tonight, but we do have 1, 3, and 10-year goals and measurables that we can't share tonight, but I can share what our 1-year objectives are. We want to relocate our core office to the North Charleston area while maintaining our office on the peninsula. We want to improve our service delivery execution and our casework follow-through. We want to make sure that we're doing closed-loop referrals, and I don't know if you know what that means. We have a lot of people that are going and getting services, but are they actually getting those services and they're closed-loop and they receive those services? But we want to make sure that they're closed-loop. We want to improve our overall data quality, reliability, and usability to improve our outcome measurements and ecosystem while adoption of common platform to improve coordination. In 2019, I introduced the Unitas platform to the state and then to other folks. And with this platform, I saw in the gap of services, we are not connecting our mental health, we're not connecting our medical, and we're not connecting our social services all together when we're addressing a person as a whole. And we really need these types of platform in order to happen. I introduced the Unitas platform. It is in the state. I am part of a forum that we're going to be doing in Columbia next week. And it's really important that we are measuring outcomes. We're measuring improved and performance of each one of us and what we're doing, and not only as an individual, as a nonprofit, but also as a county and a state together. We want to develop a financial foundation. We want to create a clear brand of improved marketing strategies. And last but not least, This is the ribbon or the icing on the cake, is we want to become a faith-based organization. We currently are working on, if we can have every one of us that want to be walking alongside that journey. I can't use my text messages over and over again and, helping those people and answering them. But we would like to see the faith-based organization, and we have a training that's going to be coming up. And what that would be doing is they will be under the Bridges Out of Poverty. A lot of people just don't want to just give them food. A lot of people just don't want to give out clothes, but we want to be able to walk alongside of these folks. And how we use our investment, we expanded to 2 locations with our main office in North Charleston. We need to hire some key staff and expand our interns and our volunteers. I just met with the Citadel, and they'll be coming in on our nursing to start triaging all of our hospital discharges. We have many hospital discharges from in-state and out-of-state that we work with. We want to enhance our services and casework contacts. We want to improve our marketing. And we want to support a large-scale adoption across the ecosystem for Unitas for improved outcome and measurements and coordination. Yeah.
Any questions for the young lady, Reverend Middleton?
Much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Rowland, for being here today. And the Navigation Center is a wonderful, necessary part of our community. I wanted to ask, what sort of relationship, I see the Charleston Center mentioned in some of your partnerships and or, organization continuum of care that you work with. What is your relationship with the Charleston Center? How much would you then say of your work falls under the category of mental health, and then more particularly substance abuse, and even more specific, opioid?
For the homeless side of it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I would say at least 25%. We're getting a lot of, so what happens is we get calls, and that's what we're going to be using our nursings for. They're going to be triaging all of the hospital calls that we're getting, and we get several from the Charleston Center that people are going to be discharged and they're homeless and they have nowhere to go. So what do? So they'll come into us and we'll start doing that care coordination, because we do housing. So housing is not just going to shelter. Housing is for the individual, and that individual can't be just for a shelter. They need to get completed. They need to get addiction issues. We need to send them away for a longer-term treatment, which we do. So we've got to be really creative and really address the shelter side of it based on the individual and their needs. So we get the Charleston Center, MUSC, Roper, Behavioral Health, DSS, you name it. These people are calling us and leaning on us to do the care coordination. We're even having now folks that are actually, churches are calling us and vetting through us before they make a donation or helping somebody going into a hotel. We want to make sure there's a solution, because we want to create a solution. We don't want to enable them, but we really want to have a solution and a plan. So to make sure that we're moving forward to get that foundation, which is obviously to getting into housing. And we don't stop at the housing. We want to empower the people, not only the families, we want to empower the children. And we've been working a lot with the Charleston County School District, where we had over 60 families just in 30 days that we're working with. And now it's getting even higher. Every day we're getting phone calls from these folks that are homeless, and these are families. And what it is and why we're different, if we just don't do the checkbox kind of stuff, we just don't want to put them in a hotel, we just don't want to get their ABC vouchers, we just don't want to get them food or clothes. We want to create a long-term plan, and we will be able to show you once we get them in. And there's a statistic that's saying families sometimes it takes up to 5 years to really get their their footing down. But we want to show them that they can buy that house, and we've got several that are going to be buying their homes. It's taken us 5 years, but what we did is even when they need to regroup, even when they're constantly being pushed back, we're still there standing next to them and helping them and picking them up, advocating them and cheerleading them to keep taking the leap of faith. And that's where we want our faith-based organizations to continually help us, because we really believe sometimes we've got to get in the soul of people as well, so to be able to have those people to come and embrace them and walk alongside of them.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, before we wrap it up, I would just ask you a couple of questions. So we have some people that's doing the same thing that you're asking to do in North Charleston now. Have you ever heard of Neighbors Together?
Yes.
Okay. Have you heard of the Community Resource Center?
Yes.
So we, in 180 place, so what you actually are probably doing is a duplication of what was always, what's happening in the city of North Charleston and other places now. So I might suggest that you maybe look into partnering with them. Instead of duplicating service, y'all can all work together under one umbrella. Because these folks have been doing great things, especially your neighbors together. You know, they coming up with a women's shelter for these mothers in transition. But, you know, they're trying to get the building stuff worked out, which this council committed to $1.1 million making that happen. And I think the city of North Charleston did 1.1, and the city of Charleston was supposed to do 600,000, but I think they're kind of backing away because they were funding the navigation center downtown on, what's the name of that street?
Meeting
Where's that?
Street.
Yeah, but it was Connington Avenue, I believe, where they had. And so what I would ask you to do is maybe, you know, since you're being overrun and overburdened, partner with these people, you know, who we are working with now, and then you get more bang for the bucks and wouldn't put that much pressure on you trying to expand. Because, you know, we work with also, used to be Charleston County Human Services, but they changed their name. And, you know, helping people, Palmetto Community Action Partner. You know, so, you know, all of those groups are more or less aligning together. And I see what you're doing is good work, but instead of you say you want to come to North Charleston to expand, work with the groups that are already here in North Charleston. Save you from having to have a building, save you from having to have more employees, and the city of North Charleston just hired a homeless coordinator, and he's doing a beautiful job and going out and helping these people, you know, trying to get them placed and get them cleaned up. So, you know, that's just my suggestion to you. I think you're doing a wonderful job, but it's actually a duplication of service.
Mr. Chair, I would also like to just interject, because it may not necessarily be a duplication. It may seem so on the surface, but it's a very specific gap that this particular organization is filling, particularly as it relates to veterans. I don't think there's any specific outreach, certainly not with Neighbors Together, as it relates to veterans and that sort of, there's not. Because
But we do have that. You have the vet center in North Charleston. You have the place right across from T&T used to be on Rivers Avenue to house these vets. So there's different avenues to work with. And, you know, even with the drug abuse, we're fixing to open up our new center right in the middle of all where this stuff is going on at. And with this opioid money that's being allotted to us, we'd be able to serve more people.
Right.
And so it's a big conglomerate of stuff that's happening. I just think they need to coordinate together.
I think we need to convene some sort of, we need to have a convening of these organizations, because, you know, you just can't take a freestanding organization and tell them to go work with somebody else when those organizations are already up and running.
I don't think I'm doing that.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying.
Can I say something?
Well, let me just say this in general, because again, all of these organizations are unique entities within themselves. They have their own individual mission. They have their own individual vision. And to then just say, you know, just like that would just be like us saying, tell Berkeley County or Dorchester County to come over here and you know, subsume some of our services. It's not even jurisdictionally possible based on just the law. But, you know, there should be a convening so that just like we have the BC, you know, the COG and some of those other organizations that umbrella, you know, some of our services, it may be a meaningful thing to, you know, sort of have many of these people in a room so that we can facilitate those types of collaborations, because they're not going to do it on their own.
I don't have a problem with doing that, you know, looking into getting these people together so they'll know, instead of duplicating the same services, they'll have it. And it'll be cost saving to everybody, you know, instead of having two different groups doing the same thing. I mean, I ask, why are y'all leaving the city of Charleston? Now, they cut y'all funding, you know, from the city of Charleston?
I'm sorry?
Why are y'all not asking the city of Charleston to do more, since y'all are in the city of Charleston now? Are they cutting y'all funding? Is that the reason why y'all are coming to us?
Charleston and us went our separate ways.
And so that's why y'all are coming to us now.
And because of certain newspaper articles and things that were said, that were misled that the Navigation Center closed, then we lost some funding. So when we moved, thank goodness, the Cathedral of St. Luke and St. Paul took us under their wing. And now we have a new location on the east side that's coming up, and we're going to be working alongside. So we're going to be embedded in the east side and those folks. That is why we are where we are today. But I'd like to add something and obviously I didn't hit on how we're different, because what's one of the points I wanted to make is how we do have similar services like Neighbors Together and the folks we have, and we utilize them. I'm not saying that. We lean on them and they lean on us. But where we're different is when someone becomes homeless and you have the police department bringing them, when 180 is bringing them, when DSS is using us, when the hospitals are using us as a discharge and they have nowhere else for a homeless person walking off the street. And I have the medical care and the mental health that I wrap around these folks. I can't tell you how many folks we have, and we have a lot of schizophrenia, we have a lot of bipolar. There is a certain uniqueness that we developed in our process and procedures that many of those organizations can't do. I worked on ground zero for 3.5 years in a very dark place, and I learned a lot from that. I made a lot of mistakes, and I learned from it. But where we're different is we are an organization that can pick up where nowhere else can go, where they have no organization wants to take them. And I'm not going to say anything wrong about, but I've had sent people, and I just had something, people say they can do things and then they turn them away, come back next week. Well, you can't do that when someone's homeless. We want to care for them right then and there. Because of the barriers they have, because of some of the educational gaps they have, I can't wait until next week. I had a veteran walk in and I sent them to one of those organizations, and they will come back in October and I'll put you on a list. That's why our intake and our social workers are very different and unique than the other folks that are out there.
Mr. Swears, you had a question?
I don't.
Okay. All right, thank you for the presentation, ma'am, and we'll take this information into consideration.
All right, thank you for your
And if it's something we
time.
can do, we'll let you know.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we move on to item number 3, which is A and B. What is the pleasure?
Move to approve A and B.
All right, there's moved by Reverend Milton, second by Ms. Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, ayes have it. Item 4A through C. What's the-
4A through C, move to approve.
Is there a second? Second by Ms. Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, ayes have it. Item 5A, we have one appointment and one applicant, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, Mr. Moody moved for the applicant. Second by Mr. Sass. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed. 5B, we have 3, but we have 4 applicants, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, so nominations.
I'd like to nominate Alex Jackson to the list, since he he has some kind of disability, and I understand we don't have any disability.
Ms. Johnson,
candidates
I
yet.
think he currently serves on the board.
Yeah.
He does serve now?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood.
All
Okay.
right, so there you got 4 names on the list. And what I'm going to do is ask each council members to give 3 names, and then Ms. Salisbury, will take it and tab it out.
Yes, sir.
That's the easiest way to do it.
I guess, I looked at all 4 and I couldn't eliminate anybody, so I would love to hear from people, from council members on who you think's best, because I said, wow, they're all good. We
That's what I'm
can't take
telling
them,
you.
we can't take them all.
Each one of them give you a name. The 3, you pick 3, he pick 3, he pick 3, and then we go from there. All right? So,
I have mine.
Ms. Salisbury. would
Okay.
you-
Mr. Darby?
I did not do my homework on this, man.
What are the 4 names?
The 4 names are Mr. Carnival, Donald Cronin, Ernest Reinecke, and Matt Fuentes. And the 3, Carnival, Cronin, and Reinecke are the incumbents. They're currently sitting on that
What was the
board.
last one again?
Carnival, Cronin, and Reinecke.
The last one.
Oh, Fuentes is the other.
So the 3 incumbents are willing to serve.
Yes.
They're willing to
That-
serve.
Those would be my name, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Darby's on the 3 incumbents.
Okay, Honeycutt's absent. Ms. Johnson?
I'll take the 3 incumbents.
Mr. Middleton?
Carnival, Cronin, Fuentes.
Mr. Moody,
Carnival, Cronin, Reineke.
Mr. Sass,
Well, Cronin and Ranky.
Mr. Schwiers.
The three incumbents is fine.
Okay. Mr. Werman,
Cronin, Reineke, Fuentes.
and Mr. Pryor.
Incumbents.
Okay. So the three incumbents will be the nominees.
Okay. They go to county council for final approval on Tuesday.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, steering committee, we needed to have some conversation on this. Some council members have stated to me that they thought that these folks have done what they asked them to do. And so we need to set a holding on to them, either disband them or suspend them. So the floor is open for comments or motion.
I'd like to,
Pardon me, Ms. Johnson?
okay, I'm recognized, thank you. I think that we have asked the commissioners to do a job, and they've done that job already. And so I would move for disbandment.
Second.
Second by Mr. Moody. Now we open for discussion again. Any more discussion? Mr. Werman and then go to Mr. Moody.
Well, I mean, I don't think that the job is done. I think there's a lot of work to do. We've got a plan that's being implemented. Obviously, that's not coming through the committee itself, but I think that having a group of experts, industry experts, folks from nonprofits, basically this, cross-section of the community that we wanted to put together, I think that having that in place would be very good. And I think we need some steering. And so I think that I would be highly opposed to disbanding it now when we have such a significant need. And I think we're, working on finding our direction and taking those steps. And so I certainly would not support this.
Okay, Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I sort of viewed this group, and it's a good group, as more of a task force. And I agree with Ms. Johnson that they've made some recommendations. Some we've taken, some that are still in process, some we may not take. But now we've got professional staff, we've got hired consultants and things like that. And I just think the use for it is not there anymore. So I would thank them for their service and just look for other ways in the future for them to help us.
Okay, Mr. Sash, you got anything while I'm on that end?
No, sir.
Ms. Reverend Middleton?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I certainly concur with Mr. Werman as it relates to the enormity of the work still ahead of us. I do recognize that we have a housing plan that we are trying to sell, to the community, and, they've been on the ground aggressively trying to build support and engagement surrounding it. And like many of our other commissions and or commissions, for lack of a better word, that serve as a standing body that works in an advisory capacity to staff in consultation with consultants. I mean, we have consultants floating around here all the time in many capacities. Even when we have standing commissions, it does not warrant their disbandment. I do feel that, we have a housing strategic plan, that is being contemplated, which then requires, some body outside of county government also to be a part of it. And I think when we, started working on the housing strategic plan and, started naming the various industry professionals that should be a part of this committee, it was then, my understanding that these people were there for the long haul, not to be disbanded annually. And so not necessarily the persons who are currently serving, but certainly based on their timeline. So I really feel that the work is not finished, and we do need an entity like this to help us further our vision and our plan.
Okay, Mr. Swears?
I guess I'm somewhat indifferent. Because we can reinstate this committee at any time. And we might even want to change up a little bit exactly how it's reinstated. But when I look back, I mean, we could let it go dormant, but that, I don't really like that concept. We did that with the transportation committee, and it was dormant for like 2 years. And every now and then I'd get a call, hey, when are we gonna meet again? I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess when there's something y'all really need to do. And the members just, it was uncomfortable. So if there's no immediate work, I think disbanding it is fine, but that may not be the final disbanding, because again, just like we're voting right now to disband, we can reconvene at any time. So it's certainly not a slight to any of the members, but if there's no work for them, I don't think we should continue having them.
Okay, Mr. Darby?
I'm just of the opinion that there are those who want to disband because there are some who are not working to capacity. Yet there are those who are, and they're working with great fidelity. And we are going to hurt those very folk who are trying to help us. Let us not punish the whole because some don't want to do so. I mean, it's almost like you're punishing the 95 for the 5%. So I think we're making an error. And because, again, there are those who are working with fidelity, and by mere, as a fact, if you look at their attendance, they're saying we want to work, as opposed to those who have not been attending, and it's going to hurt those who do.
Okay, Mr. Darby. Ms. Johnson, may I ask you to do this? Maybe we can craft it to say, suspend this body until it's needed by council, and if council needs them, we can reconvene and bring them back. You know, suspend it, because they shouldn't be meeting without, you know, council, staff consent, not just have the meeting because the chair or somebody feels they need to have a meeting. So if that would, and I think this would satisfy what everybody is trying to do, instead of saying disband, just say suspend this committee until it's needed by council.
Mr. Chair, may I ask or offer maybe the Rules and Policies Committee or somebody. It seems to me, because I've never in my life seen renegade bodies like the ones that we thrust out, you know, from this body. It seems to me that if we have a housing steering committee, that housing steering committee is under the auspices of the county. And so they should not be meeting unbeknownst to anybody in this body. They shouldn't. And we should always know their activity, and we should be a part. There should be some coordination from the council. So I wouldn't even think that it needs to, I think that just common sense would say that if you're a part of a committee, a steering committee that's attached to an organization, that you have to receive direction from, just like we direct staff to do thus or that. There has to be some direction. And so at some point, I think we have to lead and have individuals, you know, serve at our pleasure. And so, you know, instead of suspending, disbanding, we need to meet with those individuals and articulate exactly what the procedures and the policies for that committee are, and when, howsoever that's activated, you know, they'll be called. I serve on umpteen boards for this particular county, and those boards, I don't call meetings of those, you know, boards myself. You know, we are called together. I've never seen such.
Ms. Johnson, would you consider that in your motion, or you want to keep the same motion?
I'm gonna keep the same motion.
Mr. Werman?
You know, I'm just looking back at the press release we put out, and we've got provide technical insight.
Please turn your mic on, Mr. Werman, because I
Apologize.
can hardly
I'm just looking
hear.
at the press release and what we put out, and it seems to me that at the very least, you know, the original purpose of this was tied to the consultant, and the consultant's work is not done. I mean, we said feedback on presentations made by Charleston County's housing consultant. So, you know, I mean, it's kind of right there in writing. So, you know, I don't see any real argument that they've served out their purpose and that it's over. And, you know, we don't have a plan yet. We still need recommendations. And I think getting those recommendations from our staff, from our consultants is great. But I certainly would want to hear what the community of folks some of whom we're going to be relying on to actually presumably build this stuff, would certainly want to hear what they have to say as well. So I I think this would be a mistake.
Mr. Werman, to your point, I think the committee got off on the wrong start because whatever we tasked them to do, their biggest priority was trying to get a mill increase in November on the agenda. That's basically what I saw them meeting to do, was to say, okay, we need to do this to keep affordable housing. They never came back with significant plans and stuff. Some things, but not significant. The consultant did most of that. And so once we said, no, we're not going to put this on the agenda, I think most of that just went away. And so I think they hurt themselves in the future, in the present, by going in another direction other than what they should have been going in. Instead of doing things, for affordable housing and the consultant, they took it upon themselves to say, we need a referendum. And I think that's where they got off track.
Mr. Chair?
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I would just respond to that briefly to say, I mean, the other part of the release we put out said to recommend funding, opportunities or streams or whatever the case may be. And so, obviously this council rejected that recommendation, and that's fine. And, I kind of understand that, but, I don't think that we can blame them for having a recommendation, and it was sort of a time-sensitive issue. So, I just, that does not trouble me, and I think we're getting more into the phase of coming up with plans. I would also say that I don't think we were tasked with coming up with specific plans. I mean, it says high-level review of
So
what
let me
the
ask you
consultant
this
has.
before you finish. What do you envision them doing what the consultant is not doing now? Are y'all saying y'all want them to be the eyes for the consultant, to make sure the consultant is moving in the right direction? I mean, is that what you're saying this force would be? Because it still would be a recommendation.
That needs to be referred to the Housing Committee.
And the body, this body would make the final decision. So if you're saying you want another set of eyes to work with the consultant, then let's say it that way versus just saying, hey, they just need to be there.
Sure. I mean, I think that's one of the things that we have them doing. That's what I sort of take high-level review and feedback on presentations made by the consultant to be, is that they would, be providing us their, opinions and thoughts and, positions, I guess, on those. We would hope that they're looking at ideas and thinking through policies as well.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I'd like to call the question. This motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Johnson's reaffirmed. Let's call the question, see where everybody is.
Okay, you should call for the question.
I do have a question, Mr. Pryor. This vote tonight, if it passes, it goes to next Tuesday, right?
It goes to Tuesday if anybody want any consideration. And if somebody wants to, if it's get voted down, they can bring another motion. That's fine, if you want to study it over the weekend. Okay, Ms. Salisbury, call the roll.
Mr. Darby,
This is call for the vote or for the motion?
For the motion.
for the motion.
Oh, nay.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Middleton, Mr. Moody,
Aye.
Mr. Sass,
Nay.
Mr. Schwiers, Mr. Werman,
Nay.
Mr. Pryor.
I'll go with aye for the disbandment. It's gonna pass anyway.
No, sir, the motion failed.
I make a motion that we suspend the Housing Steering Committee until council directs them to resume meetings.
There's a second to his motion. I'll second it for discussion.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes. So, Ms. Salisbury, please explain to me, if you would, because sometimes I get up at 3:00 in the morning, so I hit a wall at a certain hour of the day, and I may have already hit my wall. I don't know. When we have committees that are bodies or subsidiary bodies of this council, how are those committees convened?
I think it depends on the body itself. I do know that when this committee first met, Ms. Worster met with the committee. She went over the Roberts Rules of Order, the Freedom of Information Act, the things that were included in the ordinance that set up this committee that council expected for this commission to do. That was at their very first meeting when they sort of had their organizational meeting. As far as I can tell you how I would, if I was a department head, how I would convene committee meetings, but I think this committee may just be meeting at the call of the chairperson.
Let me ask part two, because other committees have chair people as well, don't they? But there's a staff person that is in charge.
Yeah.
If I don't want to use the word in charge, but there's a staff person that works alongside
Yes, sir.
that committee. So there's never a chairperson calling a committee meeting without a staff person knowing.
Right. And I wouldn't
well-functioning committee.
Sure. I wouldn't suggest that this committee is meeting without notifying the staff. I think they are meeting without having necessarily tasks that staff needs them to consider.
Yeah, so maybe, my last point is maybe we should outline and train and orient and onboard even more,
Yes, sir.
these individuals, because apparently something was misunderstood in the process. And I pray that we are not being arbitrary in our hope or aim to suspend or disband this particular committee, because we have so many others and we're not trying to suspend or disband them.
Mr. Swears.
I mean, I think it's reasonable that if this committee reconvenes, we can assign them specific tasks as opposed to them deciding their task.
Right.
Let's tell them what we need.
As it should be. I would think so.
Okay.
I mean, but if that's the case, then why are we going to suspend?
Right, they should just be called to order.
Period. Mr. Swears?
All right, Mr. Swears has a motion on the floor. If there's no more discussion, call the roll.
I think he's going to withdraw the motion.
What would you suggest?
I would
Withdraw.
That we
Withdraw.
do if I withdraw?
If you
Then we
withdraw,
would call them to order. Ms. Salisbury or whosoever from this county, the clerk of council, will say that the committee will be called to order at a time deemed by council. Therefore, anybody in their right mind, all of these intelligent people, would not be meeting on their own.
That's what my motion would accomplish.
That's what his motion would accomplish.
not for suspending. I mean, why would we need to suspend where we can just keep them as they are and then assign them the task and what we want
If you
them?
want to word that, as long as it accomplishes the same thing, I'm fine with that. But my goal is that they not meet unless they're assigned
Right.
something to do. That is
Right.
the only goal I have.
I like that, sir.
And did we put a time limit on how long they serve? 1 year, 2 years? Because most of our committees is for 1 or 2 years at the most.
Mr. Pryor, I would suggest, because it's getting to the late of the evening, sir,
Hold on. Let my question be answered. Did
I want
we?
to answer your question now, sir.
No, you're not. I'm asking the question, was it a time limit to say you serve 2 years on this committee and then we re-advertise like we do everything else? Was that, yes, ma'am.
I pulled up your ordinance while you all were talking, just to see. You do have that. I can forward that.
So what is the time limit we give?
It says under duties and responsibilities, convene for a period of 3 years, attend 4 to 6 presentations, and then it goes on to talk about guidance and strategies,
So there is a limit
and then
of 3 years.
3
severability.
years.
So if we
Mr.
decide.
Chairman, if the chairman can simply direct them, not to me, on their own, that they need a specific request from council in order to convene a meeting.
That's fine. I don't have a problem.
That's all we're trying to accomplish.
That's all. Ms. Salisbury?
I have a question. So when I first brought this to you all in executive session, the issue at hand was that there is persistent absenteeism among nearly half of this committee. My duty is to let you all know that there is persistent absenteeism. What I need to know from you, if this committee is not being disbanded, is do you want me to let those people who are persistently absent know that we are going to re-advertise their seats? I just need some direction from you all
I think
as
that
to
would
what
be
you want to do.
appropriate.
I think if they have a specific task assigned to them, some of those that have been absent might find an interest in attending again. So I don't think we act on that
Until we bring them back.
Right.
I think we need to just wait on that part. Okay. Because it wouldn't make no sense to send a letter to somebody who's not gonna be serving anyway.
Sure.
Right. All right, so Mr. Swayze, your motion,
I'll withdraw my motion if you agree that you will simply direct their chairman what we have just talked about.
would you do that and get a letter out?
Yes, sir.
To them?
Yes, sir.
And you have Mr. Tootin sign it outside.
Withdraw my second.
You withdraw a second, okay.
Chairman.
Yeah.
That, and I'm fine with that, but is that permitted by the ordinance? I mean, can the chairman do that, or do we need to empower the chairman to do that?
You're not there a road committee.
And is, do y'all want to vote to have me send a letter to their chairman? Or y'all just want to, just say, okay, do it. Let's just maybe, somebody make a motion. And
I'd just like to hear if you can do it, I'm agreeing with Mr. Schweers. You just call him and tell him to knock it off. But
He sends letters to
It certainly,
municipalities.
yeah, he does. And I mean, this body can make that decision. It certainly sounds as if there's some support for it. If you want to make it official and allow it to be captured in the minutes, I would suggest that you take a vote.
If their chairman challenges that, then we'll vote. and probably remove that individual from the committee.
A chair that we appointed, meaning to the committee was challenged, shucks.
well, I would move then that we ask the chairman to send the letter in accordance with the discussion we've had here today.
Second.
All right, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, okay, ayes have it. Anything else to come before this body, before we adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I was going to say something else, but I've since forgotten. It was important too, but I've
That's because you
forgotten.
wake up at 3 in the morning.
Nothing
Yeah.
else? Meeting adjourned.